In the last lecture, we saw that we could pass more than one function to our aggregate function. For that, we saw that we have to pass it as a list. So in this example, we saw that by passing the mean, maximum, and maximum to mean methods or functions to our group by object, once we call the aggregate function, we got the following result. So here it's calculating the mean, it's aggregating our group by object by mean, maximum, and maximum to mean for the following 4 columns: total bill, tip, size, and percentage tips. What if we want to calculate, what if we want only the percentage tips? What if we want these 3 functions for the percentage of tips column only? We can do that too. Let's see how we can do that. So let's save that. Let's save our result in a variable called xx. You can name it whatever you want. And once you save it, we can simply pass percentage tips as an index. So we have our xx, then we can simply pass percentage tips, and that will give us this chunk of data for the percentage tips column only. So now our percentage tips column is aggregated by mean, maximum, and maximum to mean. And similarly, we can do that for the other columns like tip or total bill paid and so on. Next, I want to show you an example on how we can add a new column to our data frame by aggregating our data frame and then merging it. For this, let's look at the data frame object that we created earlier in the previous lecture, and we also looked at this at the beginning of the previous lecture. So our data frame has 5 rows and then 4 columns. What we will do is we'll group our data frame by one of these 2 keys, either key 1 or key 2, it doesn't matter. And then we'll calculate the mean of this column 1 and column 2. And then we'll add new columns for each of these 2 columns. And that column will have the mean for column 1 and the mean for column 2. So the columns we add will be column 1 mean and column 2 mean. And those columns will calculate the mean once we group our data frame by one of these 2 keys. Let's look at an example. First, let's group our data frame by, let's say, key 2. So we have our data frame that group by, and then we want to group it by key 2. And we'll calculate the mean. And once we calculate that, there is a method called add prefix. We'll call the add prefix method on our grouped by object once the mean is calculated, and then we pass whatever name that we want, whatever prefix. So let's say mean of underscore. So by default it will add, if we don't pass any name, by default it will add column name, this column 1 and then column 2. And let's save this in a variable called mean column. Now if we call our mean column object, now we have a new data frame, a mean column data frame, right? We have means of column 1 and then mean of column 2. What we'll do next is merge this data frame with our original data frame. That way we'll have 2 new columns. So for that we'll use Pandas merge method. So pd.merge, and we want to merge our data frame object and then the mean column data frame that we just created, and they will merge left on key 2 and then we'll set the right index to be true. If we run it now, we see that 2 new columns are added, mean of column 1 and then mean of column 2. Similarly, we can also group our original data frame. Let me call our original data frame. We can group it by key 1, and then once we group it, we can calculate the mean and then add prefix that way also. Let's see how we can do that. So it should be easier. We have our data frame object, and then we'll group our data frame group by, we'll group our data frame by key 1, and then we'll calculate the mean once it's grouped, and then we'll add prefix. Then we'll add whatever prefix that we want. Let's give it the same name that we used, mean for, then it will add 2 columns, mean for column 1 and then mean for column 2. Okay, new mean columns, that's the name of our object. And then if we call our new mean column object, we see that we have a new data frame grouped by key 1, and then we have the mean columns for column 1 and column 2. Next, we'll use Pandas merge function to merge the 2 data frames, our data frame original and then new mean column data frame. And we'll pass the left one argument, then we'll set it to be key 1, and then right index we'll set it to true. If we run this now, we see that our 2 data frames are now merged, and then we see that 2 new columns are added, mean for column 1 and then mean for column 2. This is what I have for this lecture. Thank you everyone, and I'll see you at the next lecture.